everyone got their scans? We're all checked in and good there? Okay, cool. And then, how did this week go? Are we keeping that protein up where it needs to be? Yeah, everyone's got to be good, good. Number of workouts, who got their 5 to 6 workouts? Yeah?
Today's 5.
Today's 5, yes. Good. And then we'll come back to sleep. But off plan. Everybody, how many times do we go off plan? Hold your fingers up.
Yesterday I did it 1 day.
Okay.
I,
We still
by
see
accident
movement
I
there,
was on vacation.
1 day.
Sorry.
right?
Oh, the whole month.
If I was on vacation, I
Oh,
wouldn't
wait.
doing this. Oh my God.
I had a tiny little rice.
Okay. Tiny little bit.
Tiny little
And
rice.
that's our ongoing goal, right?
Lord.
To actually hit that 80-20 rather than
5.
60-40. Yep. And anybody been hungry? Are we eating?
After Linda.
Maybe.
Okay.
Well, after
Right?
Linda.
If you're hungry, make sure you eat. Eat the right things, but eat. Okay? We shouldn't be hungry on this. And then sleep. We're gonna get into sleep today. We'll ask you those questions later. So yeah, today's all about sleep, and hopefully you'll learn something new through here. All right, we're gonna go a little bit into what happens when we don't sleep well, and why that can lead to. Is anybody skeptical about like, I didn't sleep, but I had a harder time losing weight, right? We're gonna go into that a little bit, and then dive into, got a little sleep hygiene checklist, and we'll talk through that and get your questions answered, and talk a little bit about why we talk about sleep hygiene, right? Should come away with some tools to make your sleep either better, or like you're actually getting more sleep, or more productive, right? A lot of times we go to sleep and we stay in this like, light sleep rather than deep sleep. So we'll talk about how we can work on getting there a little bit better. Okay. And just to show you guys, right, this is something we tell you over and over and over and everything, but sleep sits down here. As far as like, as we're progressing and as we want to make improvements to our health, if we don't take care of sleep, we see the rest of this not work as well, right? Or not work at all. And there's probably been some of you where you're like, my nutrition is on point, but I'm not sleeping. I'm not getting my 7, 8, 9 hours, and so this doesn't move as well. Right? Or we're exercising and you didn't sleep last night, so it feels terrible. I'm sure we've all been there this month, right? And then basically it also will contribute to having issues with that, things about this. Okay? So it's really important. Bottom line with that. So as far as how much sleep, typically we want 7 to 9 hours of actual sleep, right? How many people normally get 7 hours? At least. Anybody less than 7
Like
hours?
7 hours, like consistent, like you don't
sleeping.
wake up.
Yeah, like not in bed, but actually sleeping,
Yeah.
eyes are closed, passed
Okay, I
out,
probably did
all
last
that,
night.
right? Not, so
You
there's,
still have to account for that 2 o'clock in the morning.
yes, right. So that's why we aim for more, so we end up with 7 or more. Right? So only 1 to 3% actually need less than 7 hours of sleep. Right? So if you're someone who's like, oh, I feel great at 6 hours, probably not. Right? 1 to 3% is a very small amount of people. So we do, and the problem is once we get less than 7 hours, studies show that we actually have some impairment, whether we realize it or not. And that's where that performance comes in and all of those things. So yeah, and then it's a huge problem. 35% of US gets less than 7 hours of sleep on average. So, and this is just to show you, like, basically as we go through here, most of us in the adult range, anywhere from 7 to 9 hours. Teens technically need more sleep. The parents out there, it's not just because they're being lazy, it's because they actually need more sleep. Any questions? Anybody like surprised that you need 7 to 9 hours of sleep? Okay, cool. So I want to talk a little bit about what happens when we don't get enough sleep. When you guys all know about hormones, right? Hormones do a lot of stuff in our body. Yeah. So biggest thing though is they get affected when we don't get enough sleep. So I want to point out just a few because they are specific to weight loss and visceral fat and all those keywords that we talked about, right? Kind of connect why you don't sleep we don't see weight loss, right? We don't see fat loss, I should say. So the first thing is we get hungrier, right? If we don't sleep, we get hungrier the next day and the next day, and that adds up because of these two guys. Leptin it's called the babysitter, right? It's the one that like is going to control us being full, right? So leptin is like, okay, you're full, you need to stop eating, right? The babysitter as in, I'm going to take that candy away because you don't need it, right? It's that thing in our brain that tells us, you're good, you don't need that anymore. When we don't have enough sleep, that goes down, right? So all of a sudden, we don't have something tell us, oh, I'm not hungry, I don't need this. It's, oh, I want something, so I'm going to eat it. And then the other half of that is ghrelin. Ghrelin is the gremlin, right? So when you're like, I'm hangry, I want to eat something, that's the ghrelin. That's in charge, or ghrelin's in charge of that. So we eat more because of it. So all of a sudden, we have less sleep. These things, this goes up, this goes down, and so we don't have any of these control systems in place. We say, okay, I'm really hungry, I'm going to do it, whether or not I've eaten today, right? Or if I've had a lot of food and I want that dessert, well, those things are going to not stop us from having it, okay? So it's a lot harder to stay on track because we don't have those control systems. On average, people with poor sleep eat 300 plus extra calories a day. If you're someone that we're only eating, 12, 1300, and then we have 300 more, that's a big deal, right? And then this guy down here, cortisol. Everyone knows about cortisol, or heard of cortisol at least, right? What is it as far as our hormones? We all call it our stress
It's our belly fat.
Exactly.
All that.
Right, so it's our stress hormone. And when we have a lot of stress, or I should say when we have less sleep, we get a lot of cortisol. Right? So it's the same feeling as when you're really stressed. Right? Your body's getting into this like fight or flight mode. So it starts to, it bumps up your sugars. Because your body's like, oh, I'm in this fight or flight mode. I need more energy so that I can manage and get away from whatever, as far as like historically. So it bumps up sugars, and so that leads us to higher sugars. And then what happens there is our body says, okay, now I need more insulin, and it starts depositing everything. So we end up with more visceral fat as well. Long story short, cortisol goes up, our body stores everything and produces more of its own sugar, and so we end up with more of that dangerous fat, really what it is. And so consistently getting 7 to 9 hours of night is lower risk of heart disease, diabetes, and burnout, right? And so that's because this isn't required to stay all the way up the whole time. We can actually relax and not lead to higher sugars. Cool? Questions on this? I know it gets a little bit more into that science stuff, but just wanted to let you guys know what's going on there. This is more information about, just kind of background as far as when somebody, this study here, they took 2 weeks, told people, hey, we're going to have you eat this many calories, right? And then, but some of you are going to sleep 5.5 hours, and some of you are going to sleep 8.5 hours. And what happened is the ones who slept more had more lean mass loss and more fat loss, right? The ones who slept less, I flipped that. They lost more muscle, basically. So this is your fat, and this is your muscle. So they lost more fat, maintained their muscles. This one, they lost less fat and lost a lot more muscle. So, kind of shows you, like, even in research, there's lots showing we don't sleep, we're not going to get the same results. Cool. And then same thing with training. Has anyone tried to train when they're really tired? It doesn't go well, right? You're like, why does this weight feel heavier today? Right? Why can't I move as quick? Why are these burpees terrible? Right? They're always terrible, but more terrible. And it's because when we're sleeping, we also are producing all the things for recovery. So growth hormone, testosterone, all those other hormones. We're not going to dive deep into them. But in the middle of sleep, in those deeper stages, right before we start dreaming and all of those things, is when all that muscle growth is happening. Right? And so this just shows you, we exercise, we get beat up here, and then this recovery period is where we're supposed to recover and be able to do more the next day. Well, if we don't get into the deeper sleep, we don't produce all those things to get us to be recovering, all of a sudden this recovery is shortened, right? And we stay down here rather than being able to do more. Make sense? Okay. Cool. So, any questions on all that stuff? That's all the science, hormones, and stuff. Okay. Cool. So then, this is one other piece, and then we're going to dive into exactly what you can be doing or should be doing on a regular basis to get your sleep where it needs to be. Have you guys heard of circadian rhythm?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone want to tell me what it is? The brave people. Sonia's got it.
Yep, because I used to sell a drug that was
Oh.
like based on this.
Nice.
So I used to sell a high blood pressure medicine that had 24-hour half-life. And we used to talk about like, this is gonna work really well with your circadian rhythm because usually when you wake up in the morning, your blood pressure rises, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you have high blood pressure and you take this medicine, it will keep it even. It's not gonna have that extra. So it's like your internal clock.
Yes, great. Internal clock. Right? Our body is meant to work
That's my
on.
long way of explaining it.
Yes,
Josh.
great explanation. You hit those two key words, right? The internal clock. So our body is wired and set to run on this 24-hour internal clock. And so with all of that, right, we see cortisol rise in the morning. We see this happen with our hormones in the afternoon. Our melatonin rises at night, makes us sleepy. We get that growth hormone. We get all of these other things happening all throughout the day, right? And it's all your body's wired system to do that. And it's all hormones. But basically, it's meant to be that we sleep a certain time and we wake up a certain time. Right? It's a little different for everybody, but everyone's wired on this internal clock. And the things that control it are going to be our light, our meal time, our movement, sleep routines. Like, we can get out of, our body can be in this internal clock, but we can be fighting it, and we can be out of sync with it, and that's what tends to cause us to have issues with sleep, right? So when we look at our, what we call sleep hygiene, right? Sleep hygiene, has anyone heard that phrase before? Yeah, it's pretty common, right? We can think of it as, how can we sync up our body and our actions to make this clock work well, right? Because the clock's going to run regardless. We may lag behind it. We may push it the wrong direction, right? We can think of jet lag, where we're just not in sync with that clock. But if we do certain things, we can make it work better, right? Questions on this?
I do have a question. So, like with meal times, I sometimes eat a little bit later,
Mhm.
just because I'm taking care of things, and I replace dessert, like because I just like to eat a little bit of ice cream,
Yeah.
and I replace that with having a protein shake at night.
Okay.
I'm wondering, like, if I get too close to bedtime, the protein shake
Yeah.
that has, like banana and almond butter and protein and all and milk and everything. Is that going to affect my sleep or any of the other
Right, where things go in there. Yeah.
supplements?
So meals are interesting. We can technically eat up until bedtime and not get this clock all weird, as long as we're eating the right things. Right? So if you went to bed and you're like, okay, well I don't have a choice, but I need to eat before I sleep, right? It's only an hour. As long as we don't load up on sugar, right, and we don't have a whole bunch of that, then we're generally okay. Right? Our body, if we have our fats and we have if we're having carbs like vegetables, fruit, right, those type of carbs, they have all this fiber that's going to be a slower acting system. So it's not going to throw the body into producing more insulin to process the sugars and all this. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really, it's not necessarily about when we eat. We want you to eat, right? We need to eat. We want that recovery period, but more about what we're eating.
Because I'm having problems with my sleep and I just
Yeah.
don't know what is that.
Yeah. And the flip side of that, some people eat like way down here and then don't eat the rest of the night, right? Sometimes then some people, nobody? Okay, we won't talk about it. But some people have that issue where all of a sudden they're crashing with their sugars in the middle of the night, and that can be just as disruptive.
I got a question too.
Mm-hmm.
What about people that work graveyards?
Yeah.
I mean, I
really
did that
hard.
for 30 years. I worked
Mhm.
graveyards, and I was really messed up.
Yeah.
So is that why you can't lose weight and stuff during
Right.
that?
So
time?
it's like asking this whole clock to flip on its head.
Yeah.
Right? Like, let's run it down.
Well, and then,
Sure.
and then I would sleep like 4 hours, and then
Mhm.
get up and sleep another 2 hours or something before
Yeah.
I went to work.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
So that's probably what screwed up my whole system.
Yeah, shift work is like super disruptive. All of a sudden, like our body responds to light cues, and now we're saying, okay, don't respond to that. Let's respond to something else. So we end up like one, sleep isn't great in general, and then our stress hormones just up all the time, so we get fragmented sleep and sugars off and all of that. So shift work is a really challenging one. There's good answers to it, and not great answers, right? Our body's not really meant to be working on that time period.
So they shouldn't make them.
Yeah, they shouldn't make it. Nobody should work at night. Yeah.
How does
So-
napping affect all this?
Yeah. So
I'm not gonna
I think I wrote it on the next page. So I'm gonna hand these out, or maybe Caleb wants to hand them out,
It's remote work days.
or you can take one and pass it around. So we're gonna go through a little bit of the sleep hygiene checklist, right? But naps is one of the things on there. I'll jump to that answer now. Right? So naps don't make up for extra sleep, for missed sleep, right? A power nap is one thing, or like, okay, I need a little something. But when we nap, if you nap for more than a half hour, it resets, like it changes the clock a little bit in the wrong way, right?
Is this why after you take a nap and you wake up and you kind of feel like crap the rest of the day? Yeah.
Yeah, the grogginess, because
Yeah.
you were sleep deficient, right? Because you're like, I need a nap, and so your body's like, okay, I'm gonna jump into those deeper phases of sleep quicker, and so then we end up, especially if we do more than a half hour, the body thinks it's bedtime, right? And so now you're trying to pull it out of that. So if we are doing naps, half hour. Okay. If we are doing naps,
Hour now.
we should do power naps, less than a half hour. Yeah. Because without getting too deep, right, we have chemicals that are all basically driving us to sleep at the end of the night, or the end of the day. And things like coffee and things like long naps make those chemicals not be as effective.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
What about perimenopause and menopause
Yes.
full women?
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Listen, I know you don't understand that because you're a male, but it is a real.
But it's a real thing.
Josh brought some.
I think that's when my sleep went south, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a real thing.
100%.
So my
The women are all
question
wound up.
My question is,
Yeah, watch out, Josh.
what if most of my,
Poor Josh.
like, according to
He's
my
all, I didn't sign up for
research,
this.
saying I need an average of 7 hours, but like, let's say I get one night, let's say 1 or 2 nights, at least this is just for me,
Yeah.
a month, and usually around my cycle, where I'm like, oh my god, I cannot sleep, what's
Yeah.
happening?
Yeah.
Or you wake up at 3 a.m. and you're like that.
Right,
In the
that-
middle of a
yes.
hot
Yeah.
flash.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so
Yes.
it's not a great answer. But basically, we just need to make sure, like, as those are coming, we are checking off every little thing on that list. We want to stack all the things in our favor, or in your favor, so that we don't have an extra thing going on there, right? Progesterone is what's in charge of that sleep when we're going through perimenopause and menopause. So that's something, but staying on your circadian rhythm, adjusting, exercising, all of these things are going to help making sure we're lining it up to at least have our best chance of getting to that thing. Yeah.
I just try to get it early.
Right.
Even if I
That's the
wake
other
up
thing.
and I have
At
more
least we
sleep,
have more
maybe.
time. So a couple things I wanted to point out. In this checklist, what I want you guys to do, it's actually a checklist. Right? I want you to go through this week and do all the things. And maybe it's looking and seeing like, okay, I'm pretty sure I do this. Make sure. Right? Do a little check-in. All of these things are going towards helping us get synced up with our circadian rhythm. So we talked about schedules last week. right? We should have the same sleep schedule all the time, right? There's something called social jet lag, right? I want you to think about somebody who on the weekend decides to stay up till 1 o'clock instead of 11 o'clock, you know, on the normal. It's doing the same thing to your body that happens when you travel across time zones, right? Because your schedule is shifting so drastically that now on Monday, instead of trying to, you know, function from the weekend schedule, now you're trying to schedule or function on Sunday. Okay? So that's where weekend catch-up sleep isn't a thing, right? It's basically just you're getting not enough sleep, insufficient sleep, and it ends up just this big cycle that's not going to fix itself unless you make sure your sleep is the same time. Ideally it's the same time every night, right? But plus or minus 1 hour for your wake and your sleep. Okay, that's really important. Like if you're like, I'm doing all this, but this is off, that, you know, a deal breaker. Make sure we're doing that. The other things on here, so morning sunlight and wind down before bed and avoid screens, all those are just having to do with your circadian rhythm. Responds to light in the morning, right? So it gets that body going. And then at night it responds to dark. Right? And so if we're showing, you know, getting screens and all of that, it's cueing to your body that we're not ready to sleep yet. I don't need to release all this melatonin that I should be doing, and stunts that a bit more. Right? And then the dark, cool, quiet, so let's make your bedroom sleep friendly. That's all about getting your body to like ease into sleep. When we sleep, our body temperature drops, our blood pressure drops, heart rate, metabolism, all those things are dropping because it's going into this rest and recovery, right? So by doing that as you're getting into your bedroom, it's saying, okay, this is time to sleep. And it's going to release all those things we need to and let your body like kind of get a head start into that. Okay?
If I set my thermostat down to 60 degrees, my
So-
husband would freeze to death.
Yes.
Exactly.
So there is a range, right? Everyone's a little different. 60 to 67 is like on
I would
average.
love that.
Yeah. So that's where we're getting fans in there, right? Fans that may blow on you and not him. Also, if we keep the head cooler, like it also helps to get us to sleep a little more. That's where the brain's at.
Is that why it feels good to have a cool pillow?
Right, exactly. Because your body's like, oh, it's bedtime. Okay. And we talked about naps. The rest of these things, we talked about food. It does say if possible, right? But if it's not possible, that's where make sure we're choosing the right foods. Fluids is really just about making sure that we have an empty bladder when we go to sleep. Not give us that reason. When we're in a really deep restorative sleep, our body actually like turns that down, and we're not so likely to wake up before. Okay.
I've heard that peanut butter is a good snack before bed.
Because it's got the fat. Right?
That-
So, yeah, that slow drip system.
So is the 2 hours, that's enough to completely clean out your bladder?
It's enough to, so it's
Not if
enough to
you're
make sure the
70 years
sugars
old.
are coming down. Right?
I mean, as far as
So-
waking up to pee at night.
Oh, yeah. 2 hours should be fine. 1 to 2 hours. And it's different, once again, for everybody. Some of us are just like, little bladder and we go, right? Or just, it's more sensation to go, less fluid. The other thing, if you're like, I'm doing all this, and you went through and checked every little thing off, there are medications, right, that can cause us to not get into deeper sleep.
What are they?
So, they typically are antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications.
Oh, great.
Yeah, which is kind of weird, right? We think that's
Well,
going to
if I
get us
don't
there.
take it though, I'll be in a panic attack all the time.
Right, it's a balance. Figuring out which one works and which one doesn't. But they do prevent us from getting deeper in there. I don't want you to stop taking them. But it may be worth a conversation.
No, you don't.
Okay, yeah. Sleep apnea, right? If we're not having that breathing and it's getting blocked, we're never going to get into that deep sleep because our body's basically on alert to wake up every little bit. So those are some other things to think about. Obviously, alcohol and caffeine and nicotine and
Three of my
marijuana,
favorite things.
all those things also affect sleep too. Right? So consider those other things that we may be able to need to play around with.
I'm not gonna do it. I don't know what to play.
Other questions? So go ahead and read through your list.
How about a good
Why do I have
pillow?
to pee all the time?
Good pillows, good.
You got
Good
to
pillow.
money?
Oh my god, all the time.
Me too.
Is that Bert's children?
That's where
I didn't hear you.
stopping drinking sooner, right? And yeah, that's the big one. Also, if we ever have like fluid retention, because we've been sitting a lot all day, all of a sudden we go flat, and that fluid's getting circulated more. And so then we end up
Well,
sitting
my
up,
mom does.
right? So sometimes getting the legs up while you're getting ready for bed, like resting beforehand, we'll start to get that out.
Sometimes I go twice. Last night I was only woke at 4 a.m. So I was in bed.
So it comes out 2 hours. Why not wake up before you?
Yeah.
So, well, let's check and see, like, when's the last time you're drinking, right? When's the last time we're eating? And do a little checkup.
Last time I ate was 7:30 last night.
Yeah.
Unless I was right.
Yeah.
2 sips of water. And a full glass of water.
And it may be, like I said, sometimes that, like, drive to use the restroom is because we're not in a deep enough sleep because of one of these other things.
Okay.
So make sure we're looking at the whole picture. Sometimes it's not that you have a full bladder, it's because you're just staying in these lighter levels of sleep, so you go faster as much as you have your days. Okay? So yeah, go through this whole list, check them all off.
I told you, when I was gone, I felt so good. I need a new mattress. That's what I need.
Okay. Any other questions? We good?
All right.
We're done. Time to work out.
Thank you.
Let's go.
Thank you.